Okay, so let's go over a few basic. Usually people remember sine, cosine, and tangent. So, TOA. Anyways, either way, you need to know that sine is opposite over hypotenuse, cosine, and tangent, which you probably already know, of a right angle. If this is our angle, our opposite is always on the other side, our adjacent, and our hypotenuse is our long one. Okay. So let's look at the quadrants one. Okay, so remember this is your x and your y axis, and if we had a any kind of a point in here, both the x and the y are going to be positive. So if it's point 1, 4, okay, those are both positive. So x and y, they're both positive. For this quadrant, x is going to be negative. Okay, this would be a negative x. These are positive x. And a positive y. And then over here, these again, still negative x. Okay, on this side, any sort of negative x, if you plotted it, would be on this side. So like negative 3 and negative 4. The y is also negative. So anytime you plot points that both x and y are negative, they're here. Then finally over here, the x is positive, okay, and the y is negative. So there we go. Let's go ahead and see how that relates to sine, cosine, and tangent. A little bit better. All right, so let's draw a triangle here, right triangle. In this first quadrant here. Yes, this is our angle theta. This is going to be our opposite, adjacent, and hypotenuse. Really, your opposite angle for this is the y coordinate. Okay, so our y is positive, right? And then our a is our x axis. Okay, so these are both positive. Okay, let's do another one. Here's our angle theta. Again, opposite. Draw on the side here. Opposite, adjacent, and hypotenuse. So opposite is up there, so that's positive. Adjacent, remember, is our x, and that's negative. Draw another one down here. Okay, this is our opposite. And our opposite is y, so it's negative. And our x is across here. And that's our a, adjacent, so that's negative. And then we have our hypotenuse here. Okay, do one more. And there's our right angle, theta, opposite, hypotenuse, and adjacent. So adjacent is positive. Okay, opposite is negative down there. Okay, so now question 5a says, in what quadrant does theta lie if sine of theta is greater than 0? So all that means is which quadrant, the sine theta greater than 0 just means it's a positive value. So we're talking about sine. So for which quadrant, 1, 2, 3, and 4. If we took sine, which is just the ratio of opposite over hypotenuse, which quadrant does that give us a positive value? And it'll give us a couple quadrants. So let's try that. So opposite over adjacent. Let's try the first one. Opposite over, opposite over hypotenuse. Okay? That means sine for quadrant 1 is positive. Let's try quadrant number 2. Opposite over hypotenuse. Okay? It's positive as well. Not so for here. Here, opposite is negative over hypotenuse. That's going to give us a negative cosine. Opposite over hypotenuse, that's negative as well. So it'd be either quadrant 1 or quadrant 2, sine is positive. Okay? Now it's the next part that we have that helps us narrow it down to one quadrant. It says tangent of theta is less than 0. So tangent of theta is less than 0. So basically it's saying tangent is negative. Which quadrant is that in? Well, here's tangent, so let's find the quadrant. Now we know we're going to try 1 or 2 because it has to be positive for sine, but negative for tangent. That's what the question says. Which quadrant is a positive sine and negative tangent? So opposite over adjacent. Opposite over adjacent, quadrant 1, those are positive. Opposite over adjacent 2, there we go, there's our negative. So that is our correct answer for that. Next one, sine of theta is less than 0. Part 5b says cosine theta is less than 0. So what they're saying is cosine is negative. So it's not that one, a over h. So it could be quadrant 2 or quadrant 3. And then the other part to it says tangent of theta is less than 0. So it's negative as well. And we already found that one. So here's tangent. Okay, opposite over adjacent. Opposite over adjacent is negative. Guess what? That one's quadrant 2 as well. Last one, 5c says tangent theta is greater than 0. So here's tangent. So greater than 0 just means tangent is positive. So opposite over adjacent. Opposite over adjacent. Okay, so it could be quadrant 1. Couldn't be quadrant 2 because that would give us a negative tangent. Couldn't be opposite over adjacent. It could be quadrant 3 because a negative over negative is a positive. So it could be quadrant 1 or quadrant 3. And then the last part of that says cosine of theta is negative, is less than 0. Okay. So let's mark one of those two. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. Okay, so cosine of theta is negative. Adjacent over hypotenuse, that's not negative. Okay, adjacent over hypotenuse, that's negative. Adjacent over hypotenuse, that's negative. This is tangent is positive, and also cosine is negative. So there's our answer to 5C. Okay, problem number 6, 6A says, we're going to use this. It says cosine theta equals negative 9 tenths, and in quadrant 3. So in this quadrant. So let's go ahead and find out what. And then the question says, what is sine theta? Okay. So cosine theta. So what we need for sine theta is we need opposite over hypotenuse. Okay. If we're given cosine, what we're given is A adjacent over hypotenuse. So we know adjacent, and that one's hypotenuse. What we don't know is the 9 the negative 1 or is the 10 negative 1? But what we can do is we can look at quadrant 3. All right, quadrant 3 right here says adjacent is negative, and here's our hypotenuse positive. Okay, so adjacent is the negative 9. So now we know adjacent is negative 9. We'll write a new part right here. We're going to make a right triangle. Let's just go ahead and match. We'll go ahead and match this one. And that's a little bit easier to see, I think. All right, here's our right triangle. Here's our angle theta. All right. Our adjacent is negative 9. Our hypotenuse is 10. What is our opposite? Well, you probably remember the formula. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Okay? So, our A squared and our B squared are going to equal our C squared. So, negative 9 squared plus B squared equals 10 squared. Okay, and then we're going to simplify. Negative 9 times negative 9 is 81. Okay, we're going to subtract 81 from both sides. And that means b squared equals 19, and then we're going to take the square root. So b is square root of 19, which is our value we're looking for. Okay, so now we know this one, square root of 19. Okay. All right, so now we can just go ahead and plug it into our sign, opposite over hypotenuse. So our opposite is 19 over, oops, I just realized you can't see down there. Okay, so I just took the square root of both sides. All right, opposite over our hypotenuse, okay, which is 10. Okay, now remember, if we're doing this, remember opposite for quadrant 3 is negative. So there's our answer. Sine theta equals negative square root of 19 over 10. And again, opposite in this quadrant 3 is negative. If it was in a different quadrant, opposite might not be negative. Okay, so now tangent's easy to figure out because we have all of them. So tangent is going to be opposite over adjacent. Probably should put our negative there because it matches up here. Okay, so that one's negative and that one's negative. So that's the triangle we're doing there. Okay, all right, so we're going to go ahead and place our values in there. Negative square root of 19. Okay, so opposite over adjacent over negative 9. Negatives cancel out, so your final answer is square root of 19 over 9. Okay, and then let's see, problem 6b says sine theta gives us that in quadrant 2, so we'll ignore that for a second. All right, right here, sine theta. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. So now we know opposite over hypotenuse in quadrant 2. So I'm just going to redraw this triangle here from quadrant 2. All right, so let's plug this in. Opposite is 7, as given in the problem. Okay. And hypotenuse is 24. What we want to find is adjacent. And remember, it's going to give us a negative value for adjacent. Okay. All right. So then they want to know, what is cosine theta? All right, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So what we need to do is we need to find adjacent. So 7 squared plus a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Okay. That's giving us 49 plus b squared. Okay, and so that means b is going to be square root of 527. Okay, so this is square root of 527. And remember, if we looked up here, this is a negative x coordinate, so that is a negative sign right there. So now we can finish it off. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So here's our adjacent over our hypotenuse. Well, it's going to be negative 527 square root over hypotenuse, which is 4.5. Okay, so then you could go ahead and do tangent. Okay, tangent would be opposite over adjacent. Okay. 7 over negative square root of 527, and that'll be the tangent.